Well, then I will pass things over to Martin with our legislative update from Equitas.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. I will go ahead and just kind of do a quick rundown of some of the policy pieces that we're watching on behalf of MHCA, and then kind of go into a quick lay of the land with what we're seeing in Lansing right now. It's obviously a busy time of the year, although it's also interesting because we're in that legislative spring break period. But I'm going to run through some of the bills. If anyone has questions, just flag it or we can chat about it at the end of the quick update. I won't go super deep into the policy, but a lot of these are things that we've been tracking for a little bit over a year now. As we know now, the legislative process is a little bit slower right now with the divided government, all that kind of stuff. But I'll start out with the LLPC bill 4981. As we all know, that was voted out of the House a few weeks back, 109-0. So not a single no vote on that legislation. That was great to see. Obviously, it's great momentum as we go into the House now. So that bill is currently sitting in the Senate Health Policy Committee. There hasn't been a hearing yet. Once we get an idea for the timeline, we'll flag that for MHCA, and then we can do the whole testimony thing like we did in the House. Similar procedure and process, but at this point, this is kind of the theme of the legislation. They're all House bills actually, and they're currently most of them are in the Senate or waiting on the floor. And so, because of the divided government, Republican-controlled House, Democrat-controlled Senate, some of these second chamber bills aren't moving as quickly yet. There's still some politicking and negotiations going on other policy pieces. So, LLPC bill, there's going to be no issue with it. It's just unclogging what we call the dam of policy, getting stuff to move. So we'll continue to monitor that and push on that. The second bill that I have here is the compact bill. I know we have discussed that at length. For memory, that was voted out of the House 83-23 a couple months back. That's the Rep. Carl Bonak bill. That is currently also in the Senate Health Policy Committee. And for reference as well, I've sat down with the Chief of Staff for Chair Hertel, who chairs the Senate Health Policy Committee. He has this list of bills that we're looking at, that we're tracking, specifically with the compact bill. When and if they decide to take a look at it, they're going to flag MHCA and us so that we can come in and have those conversations with the chair. And then we can move on to meet with some of the committee members should they have questions as well. But we will have our opportunity to discuss that with the chair and the committee. Moving on to a package of bills that was voted out of House Health Policy last week or the week prior. Thank you again to our friends at MHCA who helped flip around cards of support for that. I know that was a little bit last second, but that shows a lot to, go in those committee meetings and then have a card of support. The organization is, highlighted when the chair reads in the cards of support, and it shows, it shows the legislators and the committee that we are paying attention to policy that's moving. We're engaged and we want to be involved, and so that sets a really good tone. I appreciate that and the quick turnaround. So that's the three bill package. Starts with 4902 and it goes to 4904. 4902 and 4903, as we know, were basically repeals of outdated provisions. It's a part of the broader LARA red tape, cutting red tape, streamlining things, making it easier to license counselors in the state of Michigan. So 4902, Rep. Vanderwall, 4903, Rep. Meerman, those were voted out of committee. Those are on the House floor, as is 4904. That's the Representative DeBoer professional disclosure bill. Those three bills are sitting on the House floor waiting for a vote. We don't have a timeline yet for when those could come up. I'm going to be meeting with some of the speaker's staff during this legislative spring break period and maybe gauge what they have intentions for in voting. But I do know once they get back from spring break, it'll be pretty busy in terms of moving policy and the budget stuff. That's for a later date. And then obviously one of the other big bills that we're continuing to monitor is 5478. That's the insurance clawback bill that Representative Vanderwall introduced a couple weeks back. The internal group here has had some conversations with other stakeholders that are interested in that, namely NASW and a couple other organizations. I know the Michigan Association of Chiropractors has been working on that as well. So it's a pretty broad coalition. But as I had conversations about that policy this week, I know that the chair, Vanderwall, who introduced that legislation, is having meetings with both sides of the issue, whether it's the health plan side or some of the provider side on our side of this. And so it's currently in the House Insurance Committee. It deals with insurance. That makes sense. But we have heard conversations that there is a possibility that the bill could be re-referred to the House Health Policy Committee, which is chaired by Chair Vanderwall, who also sponsored this legislation. I haven't been able to verify that, but we have heard that kind of bouncing around Lansing a little bit. So as soon as I hear on that possible re-referral or staying in insurance, we'll start engaging with the appropriate committee members. So we've been kind of told to kind of let this play out for a second, let leadership figure out what way this bill is going to go. And then once we have a clear word from the bill sponsor, we will actively begin engaging on that policy, as will a ton of our other partners that are working on it with us. So we're kind of holding tight in a holding pattern for that right now, but we expect something to start happening post spring break. And so that does kind of bring us into this period right here where we're at. The House was not in this week. The Senate, as we saw, was in. I know we've briefly chatted about that interstate licensure compact for doctors. That was a huge political kind of pawn for the past couple of weeks in Lansing. It is a good sign to see that the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House reached a deal to get that legislation done. Again, I know I've highlighted this a ton, but reaching a deal is great. But that just shows us the political climate that we're in right now with the division in the House and Senate and the governor, that we had to reach a deal on this policy where there's absolutely no opposition. No one is opposed to it. It impacted thousands of doctors should it not have been done. These doctors would have been immediately unlicensed. And I mean, we're talking appointments and procedures. And I mean, it would have disrupted an insane amount of in the medical community here in Michigan. And so by passing this legislation, they extended the sunset. We don't have to worry about that or deal with it. But again, it shows you that everything is political right now. And in order to get that done, they compromised on another piece of legislation that doesn't directly impact MMHCA or the healthcare community. It's local economic development, licensing of downtown developments and stuff like that. So the deal was struck. That's a positive sign because it shows that they are working together. And we have heard that kind of running around Lansing. The principals, as you'll call it, the Speaker and the Majority Leader have been communicating. They're working on things. They want to get things done. And so currently, as I said, we're in the legislative spring break period. Lansing will be mostly a ghost town for the next 2 or 3 weeks. The legislature reconvenes, I believe it's the week of April 14th, at which point budget negotiations will be the hot topic. That will chew up a lot of the bandwidth in terms of moving that budget by that July 2nd deadline. As we know from last year, the budget wasn't signed until October. That caused some issues, among other things. I mean, there's gaps for Medicaid funding. We're going to continue to advocate for filling those in, among a ton of other funding requests and requirements that are going through. There's about an $800 million gap right now. Each caucus has a different idea for how we backfill that, whether it's a tax here or cutting here. Those are the names, those are the buzzwords we're going to continue to hear. Tax or cut. What do we tax? What do we cut? We're hearing waste, fraud, and abuse. We're hearing tobacco taxes. We're hearing all sorts of things. So again, these are going to be issues that are going to be hashed out, negotiated on. And I do fully believe that both chambers are intending to get this budget signed by the 2nd. A lot of that is also political, as we're in an even year. It's campaign season. Once we hit that July 2nd deadline, these legislators will be home in their districts trying to make the case for why they should continue as a state representative to their constituents. So it'll be a busy season between coming back from spring break and that July 2nd deadline for the budget. And then post-election, we've got the primaries coming up in August. for the primary elections, and then obviously the November general election. There's a ton going on in Michigan politically, meaning we have a gubernatorial election and an open U.S. Senate seat among every legislator in the Michigan state legislature is up for reelection. So it's going to be a busy cycle. We don't anticipate there to be much happening in Lansing specifically through the summer to the election, but post. I don't know the date. It's probably not the 4th, but post November general election, we enter the lame duck season, and we will probably have to spend some time as Mahaka and us kind of gathering what the landscape looks like, what the political implications could be for moving policy, and what can and can't get done in that lame duck period before we go into the new year and a total new legislative session with a new governor. So. There's a lot happening per usual, but we always have our ear to the ground in Lansing, and we're going to continue to advocate for some of these policy pieces that we want to make sure get done.
Now, one quick question that I had, and this is kind of, well, first I'll let other people ask questions about all the things you just said. Does anyone want to ask questions? I did want to check to see if does Acuitas do a report on prospective candidates and kind of their healthcare views as well? Because I was thinking that might be something that we could even distribute to members just to kind of inform members about kind of what different candidates are like.
That's a great question, actually. So we've had internal discussions at Acuitas. We're currently compiling it. So to that end, the filing deadline to file to be to run for office, to be on that August primary, I believe, don't quote me on it, it's sometime at the end of April. I want to say somewhere around the 24th or 26th. That's the filing deadline. So we have, there's plenty of folks that have announced their candidacy for different races and different stuff like that. And we're continuing to compile and track that. We will have a formalized, finalized list of who's running where post that filing deadline. To the end of the health policy type stances, I don't know that we have something generalized toward that. It's a little bit broad in the sense that some of these platforms, especially for some of like the state rep seats, are not as clearly defined as what you might see in a gubernatorial campaign. I mean, a lot of these gubernatorial campaigns are rolling out their platforms or their plans or whatever that might be. And there's a lot of buzzwords. Each caucus obviously has their different perspectives. Data centers is a huge one on the one side. Affordability, housing, childcare is on both sides. But each side is kind of touting different stances or different topics. But once we get that filing deadline, we anticipate having the list of who's running where. And then we can definitely start taking a look at specifically maybe the statewide elections. Where are people's views on healthcare, affordability, Medicaid, funding, all of that stuff. So we can certainly start to take a look at topics like that as well.
Right.
Larry,
Okay.
It looks like your hand is up over there.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to add because just for the rest of the board and our guest, we met with our coalition partners last week. And one of the things that the coalition, which is MPA and ASW and some other groups, they're putting together a gubernatorial candidate debate where we are as a total group. So we're going to be sort of co-sponsoring that. And they were talking about trying to get it done in the last month or two. Now it's going to be delayed a little bit.
Yeah, I think we were looking in February, and those are tough. Quite frankly, when we were looking at it from the broader coalition, a lot of these candidates aren't getting on stages together yet. They're not necessarily interested in debating. Like any politician, political campaign, they're risk adverse and they want to try and limit mistakes, and they want to limit kind of what they're saying at this point. They want to keep it very tight. They want to stay on message. And so as we progress into the campaign season, you're going to have to start talking about issues, and people want to hear what is your stance and what do you think on these issues. And so as we move into the summer here, I know we'll have a much better opportunity. Candidates will be much more willing to be communicating with each other on stage in sort of like a debate style. I mean, that's the open forum.
And my understanding is that that'll be a virtual type thing. So once we know
Yep.
when that will be the date, we can get that out to our membership and to counselors around the state to tune into it.
Most definitely.
All right. Any other questions for Martin? All right. Thank you so much, Martin, for that very thorough update. I do appreciate it.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Martin.
You, of course, you all have my contact. Don't ever hesitate to reach out if you see something or have questions. And if you're in Lansing, stop by Acuitas.